Hello and good afternoon. A very warm welcome to our friends who have taken out time this Saturday afternoon to join us in our initiative Beyond Belief. This is your host Madhujit Singh, founder of Ananya-Women at Work, a diversity and inclusion consulting organization. Today we are in conversation with very creative, innovative, globe-trotting storyteller Deepa Kiran, founder of Story Arts Foundation. Before we get into story behind and the story of the storyteller, may I request my colleague Kirtika to come on screen? Kirtika is the catalyst in introducing the very fascinating Deepa Kiran to Beyond Belief. Hi Kirtika.
Hi, Madhujit ma'am, and hi, Deepa. It's been such a pleasure. It's a long waiting session for me. I'm very glad to see you in this session, and thanks all of you for joining. In case of any questions in between that you would like to ask from Deepa, I would like to host that. I would like to, if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question yourself, you're welcome. At the same time, if you have any questions in the middle so that you don't want to forget it at the end, you can also type the question and I would be glad to read it for you. Looking forward.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kirtika. So, a little bit about this initiative of ours, Beyond Belief. Beyond Belief is an initiative where we invite our guests, and from them, we understand the kind of beliefs in their life journey they've been able to overcome or belief they're able to bust. So, as we are growing up, we pick up a lot of beliefs, some which are told to us, and some that we've acquired just by observing other people. And these beliefs sometimes become bottlenecks in our growth process. So, in our life journey, there are specific instances or as part of a journey when we realize these dreams. Growth is all about going beyond these dreams. Growth is, growth is about understanding that these are our bottlenecks and how we go beyond these beliefs. So, on that note, let me welcome Deepa today. Thank you, Deepa, for acknowledging, accepting our invitation. And for everybody else who's here, Deepa and I have been interacting for a long time, and it's so difficult to get Deepa's dates. And when we get our dates, we've been having a lot of pluses and minuses. And thanks, and we are so glad that we are finally able to get her today on our program or the talk that we are here today. So a little bit about Deepa. Of course, if I tell all about Deepa, then we'll need more than an hour. We'll have to go an hour introducing her and then go beyond. So Deepa is a professional storyteller and an educationalist of international repute, a trainer, and writer engaged with employing the magical power of story arts as an intervention for meaningful transformation. She follows her dream of offering heartful connection with conscious communication through the simple beauty of storytelling interwoven with childlike joys of artistic self expression. As founder of Story Arts Foundation, she is based in India and works all over the world offering performances, workshops, and courses. She also contributes through TEDx talks, keynote speeches, webinars, articles in journals, interviews, etc. Deepa has reached over 75,000 educators and lakhs of parents and children. So, reaching that 75,000 milestone of educators is amazing, Deepa. Deepa, with her, has a whole lot of awards: UGC Awards, British Council ELTREP, Sakshi Newspaper, IRA National Magazine Award. She has artistic performances, training, consulting, and long-term interventions that she's been engaged in. So, Deepa, I would like to stop here because I know if I continue about you, it will continue, continue, continue.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all of us are here to listen to the storyteller's story. So tell us, how did storytelling begin for you? I know you did mention to me that storytelling actually saved your life. I'm sure all of us are excited to really know how did that happen? What happened actually?
So first of all, thank you so much, Madhujit, and Deepika, for inviting me for Beyond Belief. It's a beautiful series, and I know you've been engaging with so many different speakers and bringing something wonderful to each of us to stop, to pause, to think, and reflect. So delighted to be here with both of you and with the wonderful audience. You took out time on a Saturday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. On that note, yeah, technically, I've been with storytelling since 1997 because I did storytelling for radio, I wrote for the papers, I taught in school. So on and off, it had been happening informally. But the very formal plunge happened in 2008. And as I was sharing with you, yeah, in 2008, I was 31. Yeah, you can do the calculations. I was 31. My children were both 1.5 and 3.5 years old. I had two sons. And yeah, I was married back then. And yeah, everything seemed hunky dory with life. I'd taken a break from my work, from everything. I was just pretty much a homemaker, uh, just there with my children. And I had to discontinue my research for various reasons. I could not take it forward. Around that time, I was diagnosed with some swelling in my feet. That's it. As in, the symptom was swelling in my feet. Nobody knew why I had it. The gynecologist and the endocrinologist, nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. For 4 months, 4 months until January, both my feet were swollen and nobody knew why. And finally, in 2008 Jan, they found out that I had excessive protein in my body, so we had to contact a nephrologist who's a kidney specialist, and they found that I have a kidney malfunction. And apparently, there are 3 degrees of that malfunction. It's called nephrotic syndrome. Children get it; they recover in 2-3 months. Adults can get two varieties: one which is medium and one which is super severe. I got the medium one, but the downside is that you have to take prednisolone steroids every day. I had to take 80 tablets of steroids every day. And I was a person who never took medication. I would do all this desi, even now, I don't even have a Baralgan Crocin, anything in my house. So for me, for anyone, I mean, it's not nice to take medication. For me, all the more. So there I was from end of Jan, suddenly I was on 80 tablets of steroids every day. And steroids also caused calcium depletion. And I was already low on calcium because I had two children and I was still feeding my second one. So it was a crazy time. I had a very good doctor though, and he told me that, yeah, steroids is only solution, and you have to take it till you recover. You could recover in 2 months, in 2 years, in 20 years. We don't know. So for the next 4 months, I took yeah, 80 tablets of steroids every day. By the way, the downside of this nephrotic syndrome is that your cholesterol count goes up. So mine was 656. For those of you who are not familiar, for women, it's supposed to be around 165, 200, which means there is a possibility of a heart attack anytime. So I was on anti-cholesterol medication to control that. It was a crazy time. And I just told myself that in 4 months I'll recover. And I told all the relatives, and the doctor said I'd recover in 4 months because I didn't want that whole, oh, everybody, worrying about me, crying for me. Me crying was bad enough. But I didn't recover in 4 months. I hardly recovered. My condition was just nominally better. By then it was summer, and I just decided what is it that I want to do, which supposing I'm not in better health and I cannot do. What is it that I really don't want to leave undone when I'm in good health? There were two things. One was dance and one was storytelling. And of course, I had to do it with children. So just like that, out of the blue, sitting in one random small town in Maharashtra, I went around and put these posters, in the grocery store and the sabzi mandi and bakery store and everything. Took out printouts and said summer camp. Hired a place with a school teacher, with a school principal actually. Hired her school premises, and I thought if I get 15 children, I'll go ahead and do my camp. After 28, I had to refuse the rest of the registrations. I had to say, sorry, I cannot take any more. And then I had to even hire help because 28 children I was not confident of managing with my help. So it just happened 3 weeks every day with children, storytelling, dance, laughter. And I had a fantastic doctor who, while the local doctor, said, आपका health ऐसे है और आप camp करोगे बच्चों का. My doctor in Pune said, listen to your body. If you think you can go ahead, do it. So like, okay. So I did have trouble. Like some days, my fingers would get locked, my toes would get locked. I couldn't conduct the session. But anyway, I had to help. I had two women who were helping me and we sailed through. But the fun part was doing all of this, telling stories, singing, dancing, craft work, this and that. And at the end of it, we had a little celebration day. We called all the parents. Children told stories, they danced. And yeah, they put up craft work and everything. Oh, it was maha fun. 3 weeks after that, I went for my follow-up checkup to Pune. And the doctor said, you're perfectly fine. We have to stop your medication. You're good.
Wow.
And I remember saying that I wasn't so surprised that I was fine because I sort of, maybe a part of me expected it. But I was surprised that he said, we'll stop it because he had told me specifically that you never stop steroids, you have to taper them. Because you're taking 80 tablets and they have all kinds of side effects on the body. I had lost hair. I had hair on my eyebrows. I was swollen up. There were so many other side effects, right? I think it's very strong. So they reduce it from 80 to 60, 60 to 40, 40 to 20. It's called tapering. And I said, but you told me you'll taper the medicines. He said, I can't do any tapering. You're perfectly fine. I cannot give you another tablet of steroid. So I recovered and I decided, I don't know about the rest of the world. I decided that I recovered because of stories and dance and spending time with children. And I promised myself, this is one thing I'm not going to stop, come what may. I'm going to continue doing it in whatever way it's going to work. Yeah. So that was my first summer camp. Yeah, officially earning from storytelling.
Last you told me, and even when I hear it's, I always get these goosebumps when I hear this story. Amazing. So now you've taken storytelling as a profession, and you do train a lot of educators. You do train a lot of variety of people. So before I come to educators, I would like to ask you a very simple question. Now, people must be asking you, storytelling is fine, but what's your profession? Because they ask
Yeah,
you,
yeah. People are often terribly surprised that this is what I do for a living. It just shocks the hell out of people, and especially on international flights, it's real fun. Starting from the security check, because I usually I have all these very delicate instruments, right? I try and keep them in my hand baggage, and as much as I can, I avoid it in the check-in. So inevitably, they'll stop me and they say, "Madam, kholiye, dikhaiye." Madam, stop, please show these. What are these? So every time I have to stop and then I have to show them. I say, what is this? And I'll say, I'm an artist, I'm a performing artist, I'm a storyteller. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, people listen to you also. I'm like, kya baat kar rahe ho? I have my own YouTube channel. So starting from security check to co-passengers in the flight, um, even there, everyone, a lot of them are terribly surprised that you actually get paid to do this. You get paid for traveling, just you get invited just to tell stories. One part of it. And yes, am I earning my livelihood? I wouldn't say entirely. Yes, I earn my livelihood through storytelling, but also through teaching others storytelling, through teaching others how to use storytelling. So it's both. I it's not just from the shows; it's as much from the trainings. But yeah, there's nothing outside of this sphere very much that I'm doing. I'm writing about storytelling. I'm giving talks about storytelling, TEDx speeches or other things. But yes, I am. Like the characteristic. अच्छा काम क्या करते हो? After you tell them, you tell stories. यही मेरा काम है. um, However, it's not been easy. I had a very senior storyteller advise me that don't think of storytelling as your source of income. So initially, I did other things to make my money. I used to compare events. I used to host events, anchor them, cultural events, business summits for the government. And I would do those events, 2 or 3 events in a month, which is sort of decent enough to pull through. And slowly, slowly, more of storytelling started happening and less of the anchoring.
Mm-hmm. And
Mhm.
educating the educators. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so, right from 2000, in fact, right from 98, 2000 is when I technically taught in the school, but 98 itself, I started teaching. I used to teach at the Spoken English Institute, teach adults. So I've been in the space of teaching since 98, 2000, on and off. I worked with a lot of schools, working with children. So by 2010, when I was pretty much fully into storytelling, I did feel the strong urge to work with the teaching community because I understood teaching. I have a master's in literature and I have a postgraduate specialization in the teaching of English from English and Foreign Languages University. The reason I'm mentioning this is, that course specifically goes into the various aspects of the teaching of English and how do you introduce it in the classroom. And what I really found was that whether they're talking about listening skill, speaking skill, reading skill, writing skill, vocabulary, grammar, methodology, a lot of the outcomes that they were interested in was happening because I had been an English teacher myself, was happening with the employing of stories in the classroom with pre-storytelling, post-storytelling activities. There was all these things that were getting developed. So I designed a program. I designed a program. I would credit, I worked with an organization for 6 months, about 6 months, where I trained teachers across Andhra Pradesh. I must have trained easily 2,000 teachers in just 6 months. So I got a lot of training on how do you design teacher training programs. So I took that, I took my storytelling skill, my English language teaching, and married all of that together. From 2011, I have been offering these training programs for educators at all levels, starting from pre-primary right up to professors who work in undergrad engineering institutions, specifically with the teaching of English. So the program is designed such that the main idea is, teachers, the ground reality. So
It's just
can you mute? Somebody's got their device switched on. Can you mute it, please? Thank you. Thank you.
you're welcome. Please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. So the program is designed keeping in mind that the English language teachers in countries like India, when I
Fuck
say
me.
countries like India, countries where the native language is not English, we are not native speakers of English, but we have to teach it. Right? We have our own set of challenges, and we have to teach children who are also not native speakers. So storytelling, I found, addresses these challenges in very powerful ways, simple and powerful, because it's a zero budget tool. You don't need high-end equipment with you. So that's how I designed these programs for our multicultural, multilingual context, where you would pick up stories from, around the children's lives, from around the geographical location where you and still use them in an English language classroom, which means I could tell a Tenali Rama story in an English language classroom. And I could add a little bit of Telugu or a little bit of Hindi in my story to give a contextual relevance, to give a familiarity, to give a hook to engage the child. So this is what I began training teachers in. And one thing led to another. So I'm fortunate to have worked with this government also, state government, central government, and work with teachers there as much.
Okay. And would you like to share any experience that you had in when you're educators? Because you know, as uh, as I see them, even today, a lot of them have difficulty, moving from classroom training to technology.
Yes.
I'm sorry, somebody.
Yeah, we'll go.
So, right, as trainer, I see a lot of them have difficulty moving from classroom style to the
Ah.
virtual style.
May I request Ria to please mute? That will be really helpful. I think by mistake you're just switching it on.
अरे ऐसा नहीं करना ना जी. In situation with high risk credit might create.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yes.
So, so I see a lot of them took time to transition themselves from a classroom teaching to online teaching, which became a mandate today. Now, how you train the teachers to move to storytelling? Yes, I know there's a lot of distraction here. We'll have to see
It's
that.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you,
Yes.
how do you find their acceptabilities in storytelling when you go and train them?
You're talking about right now with the whole digital.
Otherwise, I'm just giving an example.
तो आप प्लीज ऐसा मत करिए, कहीं और जाके अपनी गाड़ मराइए. Day in. हाँ.
Shall we just the person, whoever is there?
Yeah.
I'll take care of it, ma'am. You continue it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So,
started.
yeah. Madhuchit, I'm just clarifying. The question that you're asking me is about acceptance from teachers for using stories in the classroom.
Yes, because transitioning from traditional style to a little difficult.
Okay. Yeah. So it's both. So initially, the teachers do have their concerns. The typical concern of any teacher, any teacher is we have syllabus to complete. Now if we start telling all these stories and all that, it's going to come in the way of what we are trying to do. Is there initial resistance whenever, let's say, when I'm starting a training, I'm starting a workshop, and that's understandable because whenever someone comes in and talks about a change, right, there is resistance. On the other hand, it's not that teachers have not been telling stories. A lot of the teachers employ stories and different things. Somebody uses craft, somebody uses art, somebody uses movies, with older children, somebody uses songs. So people have been innovating for a long time. Maybe it's just that, there hasn't been very clear authority coming and supporting.
Can you just remove Divya from here? Divya, I think, is there's some issue with the phone or something. Yeah. Yes, please. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So yeah, this is part of the challenge that teachers have. Every time when they're taking the classroom, it happens. So yeah, these are newer challenges. So yeah, as far as storytelling goes, I do find there is resistance, but there's also excitement on the other side. Oh yeah, I do this, or I like this very much. Children like this very much. And they're looking forward to, okay, now how can I learn this art better? How can I use it in the classroom, in learning spaces better? And I think one of the best things is proof of the pudding. Since the training workshops are never theoretical, they are never lecture mode. I will tell a story and then, we are discussing it, we're interacting. So what are you feeling? What do you think can be done with it? It's just eliciting everything from the teachers themselves. So they are pretty much sold out by the end of a workshop, and they go back with very simple tools and implementable tips on how they could actually, like my work is actually come from the field, right? So I'm just giving back to the field. In that sense, they're quite open to it. The resistance that they have, I'd like to give the example that whenever they see it work,
In situation
whenever they
with
see it
high
work,
risk credit might
yeah, so I usually get feedback, let's say a few days later, where people are very excited. I tried this.
Continue, Deepa, the thing is that I started removing the people who are kind of giving trouble. So I think now on we wouldn't have that thing. I think they are not able to conduct this whole thing with the my mic muted. Please.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. But you could also mute, no? You have the
The option
rights to
I
mute participants.
right now, and then after that, you'll have to unmute yourself. So we'll give you
Oh, right. Okay, fine. So I will continue.
just unmute yourself right now. I'm going to mute all first.
Okay. Okay. Done?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Kirtika. Yeah. So as I was saying, one quick example. Okay. I was in Pendurti, which is the outskirts of Vishakhapatnam.
Yeah.
There, I was training the teachers to tell stories in the classroom, and the teachers also have trouble with their English. Even the children have. The children just about know good morning, good afternoon. Class UKG to class 2.
Mhm.
And I remember in UKG, after about 1 month, there's a specific way, where we go about, we tell a story, we go back to the story, go back to the story, in a way that the children don't get bored, but the story sort of, gets revised and settled in their head. After about 3 weeks of working with one story, the UKG teacher came running one day saying, ma'am, I didn't tell the children, I didn't give them homework. They are just telling the dialogues to each other from the story. What shall we do? I said, feel happy. There's nothing to do right now. Let's just be excited that they're, telling the dialogues to each other. That had precisely happened because, we have been telling the story so many times and heard it. And just like it happens with the mother tongue, you hear the adults speak, and after some time, the children start using those words, start trying to tell those dialogues. So this happened. Then in the same classroom, I have to tell you the dialogue to clarify. The dialogue in the story was a rat has lost its biscuit and it goes searching and asking many different animals the same question. Snake, did you see my biscuit? And the snake says, I did not see a biscuit, but I think you should go and ask someone else. So the rat went to the elephant. Elephant, did you see my biscuit? No. I did not see your biscuit, but I think you should go and ask someone else. So the same dialogue, okay, with different animals it happens. Apparently the children were telling each other the dialogue. Rat, did you take my biscuit? No. I did not take your biscuit, but I think you should go and ask someone else. Now we have to remember these are children who do not speak English outside of classroom, okay? So it is very exciting to hear them exchange these dialogues. About a week or two later, one child could not find her pencil. So she's asking the other boy, Harsh, did you take my pencil? And what does Harsh say? No, I did not take your pencil, but I think you should go and ask someone else. A proper, coherent, grammatically correct, beautiful sentence. And to our luck, the coordinator was walking by and her jaws dropped because these are children who just say good morning, good afternoon, and after that go back to Telugu. So they don't know the rules of grammar, they don't know pronunciation rules. They just picked up. And these are motivators, these are the things that excite the teachers, that I want to do more of this, I want to try more of this, I want to bring it in my class, because it grows the teacher's confidence, her classroom engagement, her proficiency, as much as it benefits the child.
That's such a beautiful story that you've shared, and you've shared it so beautifully. I can imagine how the teachers must be enjoying doing it as well. Now, I mean, this is one of the stories that you've just told us. In a story, that what happened with the story, and in a story form, you told us that we'd like to see you in action. So, would you? Do you have your equipment today to tell a story? In fact, I did request you. I heard.
You gave me the instructions, so I've come all prepared, Madhujit. Okay, so here we go. Oh yes, meta storytelling, sisters. That's right. Come, listen, everybody. Just for you, I have a story. Sometimes nice and sometimes scary. Sometimes nice and sometimes scary. Just for you, I have a story. Come, come, come. So once upon a time, in a beautiful village, the people of the village were sitting there in celebration. You see, they had a fantastic harvest, great crops, golden crops, no need to worry for the next 1 year. So they were terribly excited. They were singing and dancing and celebrating. While the entire village was celebrating, there was one person who was terribly upset. Who was not just upset, who was angry, who was frustrated, who was irritated. So much so that he sent a curse. You see, this person was none other than Indra, Indra Dev. Lord Indra, the king of the gods, up in the heavens. He had looked down and seen the celebration and he said, what? I'm the one who's coordinating all of the different gods, the thunder, wind, water, earth, everyone and everything, and making sure that they have this great harvest. These people do not have the courtesy, do not have the gratitude to acknowledge me, to worship me. No more rains for their village. Ban. The people heard this. They were so shocked, they didn't know what to do. They decided to go up all the way and meet Indra. One set of elders who've made a small committee called How to Make Indra Happy Committee. That committee went all the way to meet Indra. They went there and they said, Indra, please, we are very sorry. Please forgive us. We will pray to you. We promise. Om Indraya Namaha, Om Indra Devaya Namaha. In fact, Indra, we'll announce a holiday in your name. I'm pleased. Indra became quite happy and he said, I shall give you rain. Thank you so much, Indra. Thank you very much. After 12 years. Huh? What? What? We mean what? So nice. It would be nicer if you could give after 1 year rains. Don't push your luck too much. Huh? You already came late. Sorry, Indra. Okay, Indra. Thank you, Indra. And the people walked back. Wondering, what do we do? Well, yes. As they were walking, they met this man. You know, in Telugu, he's called Kalaha Boju. One whose food is problems. Narayana, 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 Narayana. That's right, Ramana. Narayana, Narayana. Narad Muni. Narad Muni came up, saw all these sad faces. What happened? What happened? What's going on? You can tell me. You can trust me. I'll help you. I'll give you a solution.
Hello.
You see, Narad Muni would either
Okay.
go where there is a problem, or he would go and create a problem where there is no problem. So the people immediately told him, Narada, this is what happened. Not to worry, I say. Indradev keeps changing his mind all the time. Don't worry. Just go back to him one more time. Go back. Are you sure? Go back, I say. So they go back again. Om Indraya Namaha, Indradevaya Namaha, Om Indraya Namaha. They pray to him. And this time, Indra says, all right, I'll give you rain. Thank you so much, Indra. If I will give rain in your village, if in these 12 years, anytime Shiva plays his Damaru, I promise you, I'll give you rain. What? Sure? 100%? Absolutely. Indra's word. Okay, thank you. So this How to Make Indra Happy Committee quickly transformed into How to Make Shiva Happy Committee and went all the way up to Kailash Parvat. In Kailash Parvat, Lord Shiva was deep in prayer, meditating. And they went there and sang praises of Shiva now. Om Shivoham, Om Shivoham, Rudranamam Bhajeham, Bhajeham. Shiva the Bholinath, the one who is innocent and loves his devotees, looked at them and said, "What can I do for you?" Nothing, Shiva. This is the whole problem. They summarized the entire story and said, all you have to do is play your damru, your drum. That's all. And then we'll get rain in our village, Thank you so much. I am so sorry. I really wish to help you, my dear people. But my hands are tied. Because just before you came, Indra came and took a promise from me that for the next 12 years I will not play my damru. The people thought, what hope is left for us now? Okay, Shivji, thank you. And with the most heavy hearts, they went back to their village and informed everyone. It was as if the village was not celebrating anymore, but the village was weeping in mourning. Everyone was sitting there like this. And when it was morning and the sun came up, one young lady came briskly with a basket full of seeds and a little pitcher of water. She went to her field, took out her sickle. She was digging the soil. She was throwing the seeds and she was sprinkling some water. And row after row, she continued with her sickle, digging, with her basket, sowing the seeds, and with her pitcher of water, watering the soil. Now the villagers were confused. Hey, what are you doing? Huh? Sowing the seeds that we can see. Don't you know that for the next 12 years, we will not get any rains? Yeah, I know. Listen, lady, can you please explain, when you know that we will not get rains, why are you still doing this? Don't you know if there are no rains, the seed will not sprout? See, I know that we will not get rains for the next 12 years. I know that the seeds will not sprout also. But after 12 years, when it rains, what if I have forgotten farming? That's why I'm practicing. And the lady continued. The villagers sat there watching her confused. Whatever. Now you see, someone from up above was also watching this scene. And that was Lord Shiva's wife, Parvati. Parvati saw this young lady and had heard what she said. She quickly went up to her husband Shiva and said, listen, she's speaking the right truth. What if you also don't remember how to play the dabru? Why don't you practice a little? And Lord Shiva, being one of those sensible husbands who knew the value of listening to his wife and her wisdom, just for practice, he took his damru and he played it. So, of course, Indra had to send down rain to the village. And it rained and it rained and it rained and it rained. Once again, the people started celebrating with joy. Pongala pongal, pongala pongal, polla polla pongal, pongala pongal, oi, pongala pongal, pongala pongal, polla polla pongal, pongala pongal, oh pongala pongal, oh pongala pongal.
So I can't help self-portrait. I know, Kirtika, I'm doing your job, but my friend Ramana says, wow, we're doing the same thing, practicing online with no trainings for us. So we're practicing.
Yeah. That's true. And we don't even know whether it's 12 years.
Fantastic. Okay, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for bringing your entire thing in your hand baggage. And you know, I don't know what to ask. I think, Kirtika, is there any questions there? Let me. I'm actually dumbstruck right now.
I think that you brought a lot of energy in us with the last with Damarkam sound and all. Deepa, it was it just woke all of us up, and lovely. And I would say, if anybody has any questions, would you like to unmute yourself and ask?
Ravna, would you like to ask something?
I think Ramana has a lot of things to speak. He's very excited. We could ask him to unmute and ask himself.
I also saw something from Madhuri, I think. It just slipped quickly. There was a question from Madhuri also.
Okay. Okay. My observation, Deepa, I have, typed on the chat room. You can read. As I understand, visual storytelling requires multitude of skills. Like, you have played musical instruments. I mean, we got a complex essay. We are no good at all these things. But I think everyone, right from a mother to an industry leader or a manager of people, to motivate, they have to share a lot of experiences, which requires storytelling. It is inevitable skill. So have you, apart from training the trainers in storytelling, have you tried to mm, train industry leaders, people who have to motivate, especially in these tough times? They have to tell a lot of real stories. I mean, the stories should have authenticity, they should have proof and all that. So have you ever tried training industry leaders in storytelling? If so, what were their attitude towards it? That's one question. Another question, I have typed it. Well, let us go one by one. After my question, if somebody else asks, then I will ask a second question. This is my question. Storytelling is a need for industry leaders to motivate their teams.
Yeah. It's an absolute need, as you rightly put it, for anyone, whatever we are doing, whether it's friendship or whether it is parenting, whether it is running an institution, an education institution, an organization, anywhere, because stories are a very powerful way to communicate truths, to communicate the meaning that we are trying to create, or that the meaning that we want to convey to the other. And the interesting part about stories, unlike non-fiction and information, is stories allow the listener to simply travel, to go through an emotional journey along with the protagonist. So now we were feeling everything that the villagers were feeling, right? And by the end of that, it allows the listener to step back and to critically think about what is happening and to come to their own conclusions. Unlike simply narrating, simply telling and announcing to someone or preaching to someone what is their course of action. So we shift from instruction to critical thinking, from telling to allowing for unraveling, allowing for things to unravel by themselves. In that sense, it's extremely relevant for people in positions of leadership as much to share. I have worked with a couple of organizations. I have done, if you're talking about the corporate space, yes, I have worked with I think Genpact, Microsoft, Google, Verizon, some of the spaces where I've worked with. And my particular area of interest, and also the project that have happened, is with respect to diversity and inclusion, which is very much being addressed these days. That is, by diversity, a broader definition, what we're looking at is, of course, immaterial of the nationality, caste, creed, gender, socioeconomic status, their abilities, disabilities, which they come with, immaterial of all of these factors, how are we bringing in someone into the workspace based on their merit and their potential of what they could contribute to the organization? One, and by inclusion, we are implying what are the processes, the infrastructural structures, the facilities, the systemic changes that we are introducing in the organization to be able to sustain, and take forward and grow a DNI space of a diverse and inclusive workspace, right? In this, I have had very small, honestly, it's baby steps, it's entry points, where I've done sessions where we're starting to bring the sensitivity and, about the multiplicity and the need for uh, the entire organization to participate in this. And yes, definitely taking it from the leadership space would be more powerful. I've had a mixed response, I would say. In the past, it was a mixed response, where there was some who really loved this entire process, and there were some who thought it was humbug. But things have changed a lot from then. When I say past, I mean 6 years ago. Yeah, and things have changed a lot from then. Now, you are invited into these spaces because corporates are now open to entirely different ways of working, entirely different ways of thinking, and saying that, yeah, okay, this is an area I never looked at it. I never thought this could also be woven into my space. Come, tell us about it. Let's collaborate. So there is a lot more openness to exploring these channels, I'd say, today. Yeah, there is hope. There's a lot of hope.
Great. I think Ramana is like pumped with a lot of questions.
Yeah. Very much. Yes. If somebody else is not having a question, I'll certainly ask one. One more.
Please.
Deepaji, a question.
I think Madhuri had a question. Maybe we could.
Okay. First, let Madhuri ask. After that, I'll
Madhuri,
wait.
this is Jyoti here. Can I go with the question first?
Jyoti, please go ahead.
Deepa, thank you. That was wonderful, actually. I mean, I should say, like you mentioned, it is more about communication. You said it's rather than set aside storytelling, it's more about communication, how we express. For instance, now we saw, like, you were using props when you were explaining, and there were multiple anchors at various points. For instance, the moment you mentioned Indra the second time, I could visualize how Indra would be with your mannerisms. Okay, so how do we get people trained on that? Like, for instance, one must have a proper modulation and body language to be a explicit storyteller. So your experience about how did you get into, suppose you get students or you get people who come to you for training who have absolutely not that comfortable with body language, how do you get them into it?
Right. So yeah, thanks for that very pertinent question. So nowadays I have an analogy for that. That's the first thing I tell the teachers. Listen, now just because I'm using all these props and I'm singing and all that, don't say, "Ma'am, we can't do this." We can't tell stories. So I tell them this is all only the extra and it's the icing on the cake. All of us have all the material for baking. So just get down to your baking. One. Second, the more you bake, the more you learn. So you really have to do that. So you can't learn swimming sitting dry on the bank of the river. You have to jump in. You have to, go all that. So that's the analogy. And basically, what happens, my observation over the years has been, because of maybe societal constraints, the kind of education system we are expected to adhere to, or what is expected of a teacher, there's perhaps this excitement. Okay, wow, I'd love to do all this, but then there's also this fear, this anxiety. Oh my God, if I do all this, what are my students going to think of me? So there is, a big factor is not just inability to do it, it is the inhibition. So my workshops are really it's filled with physical activities. Teachers are moving around all through my session. So in the very beginning, I tell them, listen, you don't need to open a notebook. You don't need to make notes of what's happening today, because by the end of this workshop, if you're not going a different person, then this workshop has failed. So there's nothing to write down. It's all just participate with the entire self. So we have starting from activities where we are working with gestures, activities where even without realizing, I'm probably telling them do this. Before they know it, they're moving this, that, this all over. And they're like, ma'am, you made us dance. And how are you feeling? Oh, feeling very nice. I never thought I could dance, or I dance very well. I'm so happy to dance again. Or I used to dance in my childhood. So starting from that to specific exercises where take baby steps into working with voice. We do a lot of this. The workshops are filled with all of these. There's I have a background in theater, in dance therapy. So I pick up from all these places. Whatever tool works, come on, let's bring it. And I do find that it really pushes and slowly, gently guides and paves the way forward. And another aspect would be that this art, like any other art, there are those who have some inherent talent. And there are those who have to work at it a little harder. But that's fine. I always say storytelling is one thing that everybody can do. And doing it well, that is something that really requires a decision, right? So my agenda is to motivate, to trigger, to offer those support systems and say, look, we're there, but get going. And more than anything else, it's the doing. It's the doing, and it's the knowledge that the children are with you. The learner is with you. The learner is not against you in the process. They're going to enjoy it that you are taking this much interest, and they're probably going to help you. Like I had a child once. I always give this example. I had a child once in Kala Ghoda when I was doing a session in Mumbai. And I said, and he was so tired. Suddenly he stopped under a tree and he saw a mango. I put my hand like that. And that boy, as I was picking my hand up from the audience, he interrupted me. He said, Madam, pathar, stone. Okay. So I bent down, picked up a stone and threw it, and then caught my mango. And then I looked at him. And of course, everybody was delighted, and I had learned something new. So that's how it is. Just if we believe that the children are with us. So all of these things I do, which grows the confidence of teachers.
Amazing. Like I said, your anchoring points were perfect. Like you just had to do it once. The second time you were there, I mean, immediately my mind could connect, like she's going to talk about Indra now. Like, what is a mannerism going to be? Like when they are in a happy space, what are they going to do? Like, and I was expecting that Pongal song next time when they were happy. I mean, for the first, you started the story with that. Good. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Actually, Jyoti, you were so excited.
Jyoti. That's what I think storytelling kind of brings all of us into. We all become a part of it. And Ramanana, would you like to ask your next question?
Yes. Well, lightest stuff which you can show. Yeah. Deepa ji, I have a question. As trainer community, we tell a lot of stories to our participants in leadership training as well as in normal training. And we also, from sales to customer service to government organizations, plenty. We also ask our participants to share their experiences, and that is also a mini storytelling. So storytelling happens from the trainer side as well as from the participant side, because training room is the only place where 40 people are there and they can share a very good useful that also helps in best practices. I mean, sharing best practices, and it has a lot of professional implications. I mean, the storytelling part. So can you throw us a light on 5 do's of storytelling and 5 don'ts of storytelling? 5 चीज जो स्टोरी टेलर करना चाहिए और 5 चीज जो स्टोरी टेलर नहीं करना चाहिए. We'll be very thankful. Sorry for troubling you a lot. Asking
Are you
spontaneous.
talking? Are you asking specifically in the context of sharing of personal stories? Or
Any storytelling in general, generic. I mean, whatever you do
Yeah.
in your space as well as in our space. अगर storytelling करना है तो 5 चीजें क्या करना चाहिए और 5 चीजें क्या नहीं करना चाहिए, like that.
Okay. Quickly thinking. One, I always say a storyteller should be a very good listener. It's a very important quality to listen with your ears, listen with your eyes, listen with your heart, listen in every way, constantly, while performing and even when you're off stage. Even the rest of the time when you're listening, you're getting material for your performances or for your work. So it's important to be a good listener. It's important to do it. The more you do it, the chances of getting better at it. So keep telling stories. Read a lot. I highly benefited from reading, and I find that reading and writing can really bring a different beauty to the language with which you tell. Because oral storytelling, yeah, and that's the fourth point. The fourth point is keep the language simple. We are not here to impress with a complex essay with complex language, big vocabulary. That's for a different place. In oral storytelling, keep your language simple, easy, yet beautiful. That's what works. And the last would be, don't forget that unlike other spaces, in oral storytelling, you switch from being the characters. First of all, you become all the characters, but you also have to switch and become the sutradhar, who is the narrator. So while you are lost in your story, it's as important to engage with your audience also in whatever ways. Just remember, you're also the sutradhar. I think these would be the 5 points I would give for things that you could do with storytelling, and things that you should not do. Should not do, I would say, try not to get distracted. There will always be, something or the other that tries to take away your attention. That might, the moment you get distracted, then everybody else will also get distracted. So try to stay focused with your telling. Try not to get too worried about that person in the audience who is not enjoying your show, who is not getting involved. I mean, keep them in the back of your head. I'm not saying totally ignore them, but if all our focus goes there, then we lose the energy of telling the story, of bringing the rest who are already with you into the performance. So don't give excessive attention to someone who is not engaged. I would also say, yeah, do what comes naturally to you. Don't overdo the use of the body or use of gestures or use of voice. Don't overdo it. Try to be as natural and conversational as possible. Yeah. No, I don't want to give too many don'ts because, people have to do storytelling. So I think these are enough. These are enough. Yeah.
Thank you, Deepa. I think
One more question, Deepa. When you're talking about,
Thanks a lot.
don't overdo the body language part of gestures. Would you recommend any benchmark or line of how much is overdoing? For instance, like you said, as a natural, like, yes, I do use my hands a lot, but I don't know. But sometimes I realize probably it could be more distracting. Like, so how do you measure that, or earmark that, or ring that rings an alarm in my mind, like I should stop here?
No, I don't have any clear guidelines, but I would just say that if you get a feedback, that from a child or from some other colleague, best is to ask some honest colleagues, observe the children, are they getting distracted? If you get that kind of feedback, then just watch out for it. Otherwise, perhaps it's working. Yeah.
great. Thank you, Deepa. Madhavi, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, I would like to. I'm sorry, I'm actually driving, so I'm not putting my video on. Sorry.
No problem.
But yeah, so amazing, storytelling. And then I would relate to that completely because, I'm also a teacher. I teach the MBA students actually. And I'm also involved with a lot of student activities. So I understand what you are telling and then where you're coming from. But I know that it is not easy for people to accept storytelling as the regular course of, teaching. And you wouldn't have had this that easily. Now you are telling it all very nicely, and it looks very smooth path. But I'm sure this would not have been a smooth path for you. So I just wanted to know what were the, stumbling blocks that you have faced.
Right. First of all, I'm delighted to know you're driving and you're following the.
Oh, it's absolutely. In fact, I made my mother also follow. My mom and myself, both of us are listening.
Lovely,
Okay.
lovely.
She says, I really love the way she's talking. So we both are actually.
So yeah, Madhvi, it's not been easy, of course not. And as of today, people talk a lot more about storytelling. There's a lot more awareness in general. But I'm talking about when I was doing it about 10 or 12 years ago. There was a deep resistance. I remember one of the big schools that I had gone to, and I said that, ma'am, I would like to do storytelling for the children. She said, storytelling? You'll read from a book. No, ma'am, I won't be reading from the book. I'll be telling. So I said, okay, ma'am, this is the principal's room, okay? I'm like, ma'am, let's just imagine you are a UKG child and I'm the teacher. So I went and stood there. I told her a story. I gave her a demo. Oh, nice. And like, yeah, ma'am, this is what I want to come and do in your school. She's like, okay, you want money also? Ma'am, I'm just asking enough for petrol for my two-wheeler to come and go. So yeah, I've had instances like that where they just don't get what you're doing. They assume you're going to tell from the book. Another one, a constant one, is this pressure to take things from the syllabus and make it into stories. I don't come from that school of thought. I come from the belief that storytelling is something that can travel parallel. You have 15 minutes of storytelling every day. Broadly, the language level or the areas that you cover will be somewhere related to the syllabus, but you need not put the curriculum in it. So then they're like, oh, this is extracurricular, so there are those pressures also. But I guess that's more interesting, because now to find that people are calling you and they're sitting and discussing with you, how do we include it, I've done programs for the UGC, teacher training videos for our University Grants Commission. I've worked with over 3,000 teachers from just Telangana social welfare schools. We have done residency camps for 1,500 children. To find, the travel from there to here, I think that's beautiful. Challenges were too many, because it's a belief system, right? People are coming from a belief system. It's almost like a new concept. It's almost like a new concept. Actually speaking, it's a very, very old concept. There's nothing new. It's the ancient tradition in India, in many other nations and cultures. But we're just reintroducing it back. There's this little gap where, maybe because of technology, it's been forgotten. So yeah, we do have those challenges, and then I would also say that there were challenges where at the beginning people would be, why are you telling stories from India? Why are you not telling Snow White? Why are you not telling Red Riding Hood? So I almost had to explain myself why I'm telling Indian stories. Thankfully, that curve also, we have traversed, where now we understand. When they see the response of the children, when they see the teacher saying, ma'am, now they're listening to me. Ma'am, now they're talking in English to each other. Ma'am, they don't make fun because I speak little Telugu in the class. So all of these, I think as we kept meeting milestones, as they kept seeing the impact, slowly, the resistance, I think slowly it faded away. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Especially in today's time when, we are more prone to pushing people into looking at gadgets. You're going back to the roots and then using the roots and then teaching the story. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thanks. Lovely question.
Thank you. So, Kritika, before you go ahead, first of all, quick time check. We are at 4:05, and I think we have people who are wanting to ask questions. All right, Deepa, with you and two others. So, should we continue for another, let's say, not more than 10 minutes, promise, maximum 10 minutes? Deepa, is it all right for you?
Yeah. Just give me a minute. I want to get a little water. I forgot to keep my flask here. I'll just come in a minute. Huh?
while Deepa is doing that, one thing that I can definitely tell you, that one of the don'ts she said, don't get distracted. And I saw it in action today. We all saw it in action with so much of distraction. I was getting distracted while Deepa had, continued to say what she had to and continued with that. And when she comes back, I must thank her also.
Exactly. And I think that that comes with her practice, and it needs a lot of training to focus on concentrating on the real audience, rather than, as she said, it has to be in the back of your head, who's troubling, who's not listening. But when it comes to focus, it it has to be for the people who are actually listening. So that was quite evident, Madhujit ma'am.
Yes,
And I
yes.
think next we will give the mic, the virtual mic, to Dr. Srinath, who was wanting to share some, I think, experience that.
Deepa, so Dr. Srinath, would you come on camera and say, wish Deepa? Is Dr. Srinath there? Dr. Srinath?
Dr. Srinath, you have to unmute yourself. You are on mute.
Yes, please. Go ahead, Dr. Srinath.
Good evening, all of you. Deepa ma'am, I happened to attend your session at HCU in 2012, then later
Yes, yes.
at Jaipur
Yes,
conference.
yes.
So we
So
met.
nice, so nice.
I'm a regular observer of you on Facebook.
Yes, yes.
So,
Thank you. You always leave some nice comments. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm fine, ma'am. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you. Yeah.
So I'd like to ask you one question, madam. Are your audio stories are available so that we can listen while driving car or like that?
You know, Dr. Srinath, I'm so happy you asked this question because I have just finished recording and very soon they're going to be out, the audio stories. I've just finished one set of recording, and if we get a good response from all of you, then I'll be recording a lot more and putting out. So very soon, maybe in 1 month, I will be putting out audio stories also. Yes.
Okay, we missed a number of stories because of job work and so much of busy life.
Yes, yes.
So if that audio stories that is available,
yes,
then that will be very good, ma'am.
I will definitely be working on that. Yeah, already I've recorded. So one set is going to be out definitely in 1 month. And then if you all respond well, then the company, it's actually a project of the company. So based on response, they will have more of my audio stories. So let's hope. Yes.
Great. Thanks, Deepa, and thanks, Dr. Srinath, for the question. And lastly, I think we have one more question from Ramana. Ramana, are you there? Okay.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes.
Audible? One last question, Madhuri ji. एक ही question बंद करेंगे हैं. Okay, Deepa ji, the question is this. Right from childhood, I'm used to reading a lot of fiction. You know, short stories, novellas, novels, poems. I mean, fiction, predominantly in Telugu and a little bit in English as well. What are the similarities and differences between an author who writes in printed, author, and a visual storyteller in a classroom? Uh, how similar they are in getting a plot and then developing a plot and building a suspense and ending it and couch it with a message, something, some message which is not very direct, blunt, or in your face, but a subtle message in it, a little bit of humor, engagement. So what are the similarities and differences between an author who writes short stories and also a visual storytellers like you, or is it only a different form of the same art?
Okay. So thank you for that. Part of the question is already answered. You've spoken about, plot, structure, characters. These are relevant for both media, whether it's the print media or it's the oral. Both of them will have a narrative which has a plot, which has a structure, which has a character who's the protagonist, and the hero goes through a journey the hero faces challenges, he tries to resolve them, and finally he either succeeds, he or she succeeds or does not succeed. A basic hero's journey is often there even in the oral stories as much as in print. Having said that, some technical differences, just pointing them out as technical differences, is there's a quotation in the Taiwanese language which translates as, words printed in stone fade away, but oral stories live on forever. Okay. So the belief is that if you're telling the story orally to someone, then it will keep traveling from that person to another, to another, to another. While the book is a physical book, it's restricted by being a physical material product, which can get destroyed, yeah, and which also can be accessed only by people who are literate, while oral narratives can be accessed by one and all, majority of the people. So there is that difference also. The other difference is that, when it's a fixed text, there is a certain way that it can be modified, worked around. While oral narratives, I've told a story, you will tell it to someone else in your own style. It just immediately modifies and changes and travels. A technical thing about reading a book, from the receiving end, if I am reading a book, then I decide when I turn the page. So the progression of the story is in the control of the receiver. Whereas when it's a storytelling, if I am telling a story and in the story I say, there, I decide when to pause, and everyone has to pause with the storyteller. So the progression of the story is more in control with the narrator of the story rather than with the receiver. One more thing that happens is there's of course a human interaction in oral exchange of narratives. It's someone telling you, they're making eye contact, they're looking at you, they're smiling at you. So literally there's a bond being built between the teller, the listener, and the story, which is very special. I'm not denying how special reading is. Even I read a lot. That's different. It's more it can be an isolated activity. It can be something which you engage with just by yourself. Oral narratives by nature are very social. It is the art of conversation. It's the art of saying, I will put aside my laptop, my computer, everything else, because I want to talk to you. And that leaves a certain warmth in the heart, So I would say these are some differences. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Madhujit ji, our yesterday guru. And then Deepa ji, I came here with plenty of questions and a few of my friends also. And this has been a great learning experience. I couldn't find it on Facebook, but if you record this session, if you display it, probably I can share it with other trainer community who are interested in picking up a few basics of storytelling. Are you recording it and displaying it?
Yes, we will be.
On Facebook? Huh? Okay. Or I'll follow on LinkedIn, madam. Up LinkedIn, I'll find out. Huh? And if it is displayed on YouTube also, please send us a WhatsApp message. Huh? Thanks a lot, both Madhujit madam and Deepa ji. Huh? Yes.
Very much, yeah, for your lovely participation questions. Mm-hmm.
So Deepa, before we leave, I forgot my question also. That's so intrigued by the whole thing. Yes, so before we leave, I would like you to share one story. I mean, okay, so yeah, I remember what. So your story seems to be like a story of faith. How you came out of it, how you came out of your illness, how you came out of how you chose storytelling as a profession, how you went the journey of the tough ups and downs and all. I would call it completely a story of faith. But the title of today's talk was "Listen, what stories are you telling yourself?" I want you to see something about that there.
Right. That was on my mind too, Madhuri. Thanks for bringing that. Right. So what I have understood over, a period of time is that I'll give you a very quick story for this, okay? To explain that. Some of us must have heard of Mullah Nasruddin,
Yes.
So once Mullah was sitting under a tree in the afternoon, and he felt like writing poetry in the beautiful, under the cool shade and the silence, and he started writing poetry. But then there were some children playing around, and it was very irritating for him. Like, go away. They didn't go away. Then he went up to them and he said, listen, the Maulvi is giving sweets in the masjid. So, oh, is it? And all the children ran away. And very happily, Mullah started writing his poetry. After a while, he saw more people go by, and then some more, and then some more. And he got curious. He stopped the people and he said, listen, where are you going? They said, don't you know the Maulvi is distributing sweets in the masjid? Then the mullah thought, oh, maybe the Maulvi is really distributing sweets in the masjid. And he also ran to the masjid, leaving his poetry. So this is my story to answer the question. See, whatever is happening in our lives, whatever has happened, and what is going to happen, are stories we tell ourselves to make meaning of it, right? Uh, and the nature of stories is such that we pick up something and we leave out something else. So given this, these two factors about stories, what stories we tell ourselves, we never know. They'll just come back to us and become our beliefs. So like the mullah just told them, hey, go there, the Maulvi is giving sweets in the masjid. And he heard it so many times over that he believed the story himself, which it was a rumor he started. Similarly, I realized that if I'm going to tell certain kind of stories which support my journey, or if I'm going to pick from my own life those kind of stories which have happened, which support what is happening, it's just healthier for me. I'm not talking like, positive psychology, this, that, this, or, you will attract the best things in life. Leave all that. It's just healthier for me. The more I go back to stories that do not serve my purpose or stories that pull me down, right? It's just that much more. I make it that much more challenging and difficult. Um, by that, I don't mean ignore the negative stories. What I mean is that how are you coloring that negative story? And maybe I'll just give a very quick example of, where my learnings have brought me. Um, let's say a profession like storytelling. If everyone's going to tell you, if I'm going to listen and tell myself the same story, storytelling, how can I make it a profession? You need to have a salary, you need to have a fixed income, only then you can do something. How can you bring up the children with this kind of a career? Whoever's heard of a career like this, if I'm going to repeat those stories too often to myself, I need to be aware. I need to be aware of that story, so that I will say, okay, let me also do teacher training, so that will also earn the income. Maybe I will not able to make it by shows and workshops. But if I'm just going to let that story bog me down and tell that story 10,000 times to myself, oh, storytelling, how can I, then perhaps it's not going to help me. So this is what they call, I'm just touching on it, where they say narrative therapy, and how you retell your own stories, or how you look at what stories are you telling yourself. Just being able to do that might help us. And on that note, I'll just give an example of what's currently happening. So right now, as a single mother, I've been bringing up my children. They are now teenagers, 16 and 14 years. And COVID, of course, has been a crazy time for all of us. And very unexpectedly, different changes in circumstances and situations, and my children have left home. So the last 1 month, I'm alone at home. So one side is I've never been alone like this without the children, without that role of caregiving, without the house filled with their fights and their laughter and everything. So there's one side of me which is like, oh, how sad, how terrible. But there's also the other side, right, where I do not have that responsibility. I can focus a little more on work. I have to only take care of myself. So it's which of these stories I'm choosing to tell. There are days when I go on telling the house is empty, oh poor me wala story, and I know it doesn't help me. I probably wait for that day to get over and be done with it. And the rest of the days, like somebody meant, like Ramana ji mentioned, whether I'm journaling, I'm trying to consciously see what story am I telling, how am I telling my story, so that when it echoes back to me, it's going to serve my purpose. It's going to, help me address things. Yeah.
Say that I just can't help but share this, that couple of years back I read this article in Harvard Business Review, which they were talking about leaders. What do leaders, they actually did a kind of survey, or whatever you may call it, a research as to what are the qualities that makes a leader and what are the things that makes a leader. So one of the things that they found out is what stories are they telling themselves, because most of the leaders had, maybe some of them had really really troubled childhood. So are they talking about the troubled childhood, or are they talking about the learnings out of the troubled childhood? So the moment they're talking about the learnings from the childhood, learnings from the troubled childhood, they become leaders. The moment they're focusing on what was the trouble, the troubled childhood, so that's where they actually become a little, I mean, that's where that's not leadership. The leadership is all about stories that we tell, that what are my learnings from the stories that I have from my life.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that.
So that's it from us. Thank you so much, Deepa. It was so enriching. And I would like to compliment you. One thing that you'd said, that the don'ts, while you went out to get water, I shared this with everybody else also, that you were talking about in one of the don'ts, you said, don't get distracted. And today you didn't get distracted for a moment. I was distracted completely, but you didn't. So you actually displayed what you're telling. So thanks for that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being around. Thank you for your patience. We are at 4:22, 22 minutes more than this.
Thank you so much, Deepa, for accepting our invite also.
Yeah.
And long, long-waited conversation. And thanks, Madhujit ma'am, for hosting it.
Yeah, if everyone can come online, whoever can. Anybody who's in that position to come online, let's have a quick picture before we leave.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Super, super. Lovely. Enjoyed it with all of you, Madhujit, Kirtika, and all the fantastic audience.
Yes, Kavita and Gayatri, if you can also join, that'd be nice.
I think Tabitha is having a little bit of a problem with her eyes, so she's trying to avoid the video.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Yes. Dr. Srinath. Okay, so a smile, please. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
Super.
All right. Thank you very much. And great, great learning, Deepa. And thanks for accepting. Thanks for the patience of back and forth. And it was a
Yeah, from you too, from you too. Yes, yes. Lovely, lovely. And wishing all the best to all your initiatives, Madhujit, you and Kirtika, and everyone present here. So, yeah, one line I'd like to just say. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Srinath, for joining us also.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sheena, Tamana.